If you've ever felt like you're just running on a treadmill, working endlessly but never actually getting ahead, well, you're definitely not alone. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're decoding a really provocative concept called the richest prison. We're going to completely unravel the deep psychological and systemic barriers that keep so many talented, hardworking people feeling, just trapped in that metaphorical rat race. If you're doing everything right but still feel constantly squeezed, stick around because we're going to decode exactly why that happens. So let me ask you this. What if the financial system was actually designed so you never feel rich? It's a heavy question, right? I mean, everyone wants to be wealthy, but almost nobody stops to ask if the game itself is fundamentally rigged against that exact feeling. We usually assume that feeling broke is just a personal failure, maybe a lack of hustle or just bad luck. But the material we're analyzing today challenges that baseline assumption head on. It asks us to consider that the constant feeling of scarcity isn't an accident at all, but rather a deliberate architectural design of the world around us.
All right, let's jump right into section one, the modern financial trap.
Picture the modern worker's typical day. You know the drill. At 6 a.m., you wake up already physically exhausted. By 8 a.m., you're rushing to work, battling through traffic, probably fueling yourself with way too much caffeine just to stay alert. Then you spend the next 8 to 10 hours making money, only to reach 6 p.m. where you spend that hard-earned cash buying temporary happiness, desperately trying to offset the stress of the day you literally just endured. And inevitably, by 11 p.m., that nighttime anxiety creeps right back in as you realize you've got to do the whole shebang all over again tomorrow. The profound tragedy here is spending the bulk of your energized hours earning a living only to buy fleeting comfort that leaves you staring at the ceiling in the dark. And what exactly does that temporary happiness look like in practice? Usually, it takes the form of highly visible consumer goods. A brand new phone you don't really need, fresh, expensive shoes, taking out an EMI just to finance a fancy bike or a car. Or maybe it's just a highly visible branded shirt. People use these specific purchases as a coping mechanism. For just a few moments, the dopamine hit of swiping a credit card makes a person feel genuinely successful. It feels like a tangible reward. But as we just saw with that daily timeline, the high fades super fast, and reality always sets back in. Which brings us to section 2, the illusion of ownership. You think you own your life, right? But do you really? The terrifying truth is that the bank actually owns that shiny new bike you financed. The company you work for functionally owns the absolute best hours of your day. Social media platforms completely own your attention, monetizing every single second you scroll. And ultimately, desire, that manufactured constant craving for the next big thing, well, that owns your mind. Underneath the branded shirts and the newest tech, the modern worker essentially owns absolutely nothing of lasting value. You're basically renting your lifestyle through debt and leasing your time for a paycheck.
So, this is the modern financial trap. It's a systemic loop where individuals are rigorously taught how to work for money, but are never taught how money actually works. It's a vital distinction. This glaring lack of knowledge, it isn't a bug in the economic system. It's literally its defining feature. Think about it. You're highly trained from a young age to be a fantastic, compliant employee, but the actual mechanics of building true wealth are kept entirely out of your daily instruction manual.
Let's move into section 3, the hidden financial education. Schools dedicate immense resources to teaching us complex mathematical equations, theoretical physics, historical dates, you name it. But they actively and consistently ignore the vital tools necessary for survival in adulthood. I'm talking about how to properly file and optimize taxes, the foundational principles of investing, compound interest, and the actual roadmap to achieving financial freedom. Traditional education gives us an incredible amount of abstract knowledge, but deliberately leaves out the practical financial tools required to actually navigate the real world world without falling into massive debt traps. Now, here is a stark thought to process. A financially free person is hard to control. The core argument here is that true financial awakening is considered fundamentally bad for business. Seriously, if absolutely everyone understood how to generate passive income and become financially independent by their 30s, who would willingly work those exhausting, high-stress 10-hour shifts? Who would eagerly take on massive, high-interest debt to buy stuff they don't need? The entire system relies heavily on financial dependency to maintain a steady labor force and highly predictable consumer spending.
And to aggressively maintain that dependency, the system relies on some incredibly potent modern distractions: endless scrolling, endless consumption, and endless comparison. These aren't accidental habits, folks. They're carefully engineered mechanisms. I mean, think about the sheer speed of media today. You can use an app to create a video in 40 seconds flat and then immediately spend the next 3 hours blindly swiping through thousands of others. It keeps you highly entertained, constantly buying the next trend, and forever measuring your own worth against someone else's highlight reel. As long as you're distracted by all this, you never focus long enough to truly understand how money flows.
Let's dive into Section 4, Chasing Assets Over Status. Breaking free requires a complete reframing of the price tag. The broke mindset simply asks, how much does it cost? This mindset is fundamentally anchored in chasing status and immediate gratification. The goal is to look rich today. Conversely, the wealthy mindset asks a very different question. How much will it return? This mindset is ruthlessly focused on chasing ownership and long-term value. This single shift changes the entire trajectory of families. The truly wealthy do not prioritize buying expensive things first. They deploy their capital to buy assets, businesses, real estate, equities that consistently produce more money.
Here's a punchy reality check for you. A 1 lakh rupee phone cannot hide a broke mindset. Dropping over $1,000 on a fragile piece of pocket technology doesn't make you rich, no matter what logo is on the back. Actually, willingly drowning in consumer debt just to impress strangers who, let's be honest, do not care about you at all, is the exact opposite of true wealth. It's enthusiastically participating in your own illusion, buying a temporary feeling of importance while permanently damaging your financial future.
And finally, Section 5, Building Real Silent Wealth. Real wealth is silent. It's the freedom to say, I don't need to prove anything. True wealth isn't about loud luxury or flashy designer logos. Instead, it's a profound internal state of security. It is absolute autonomy. When you finally stop chasing the appearance of being rich to the outside world, you actually free up the critical capital and the mental bandwidth required to actually become rich in reality.
At the end of the day, true wealth is simply control. It's control over your time, like waking up on a Tuesday morning and entirely choosing how you want to spend your day. It's control over your mind, permanently freeing yourself from that exhausting cycle of consumer desire. And it is complete control over your future. We literally have to stop behaving like compliant cogs in a system that explicitly profits off our financial insecurity.
Poor people buy things. Rich people buy freedom. Let that contrast really sink in for a second. Every single dollar, euro, or rupee you earn is basically a little worker. It can either be traded away for a physical object that rapidly loses value the second you buy it, or it can be strategically deployed as a tiny employee that works around the clock to buy back a piece of your permanent freedom. So, take a hard look at your own daily habits, your recent purchases, and your long-term goals. Ask yourself honestly right now, are you buying things or are you buying freedom? Keep questioning the system, keep learning, and I'll see you on the next